he talks about the Thank you very much for joining us here on Join Caucus. Here on Join Caucus, we are proudly partisan, but tonight we're going to look at things that has to do with the Supreme Court. So we'll put that aside for now and look at the issues that transpired this week in court. Of course, we all know that yesterday something happened at the Supreme Court. Most people, including myself, did not anticipate it, and then certainly the lawyers for the petitioners also did not anticipate it. You can safely say they were caught unawares. They tried to object, but the EC had his way. That's when their chairman, Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan, sat in the witness box and gave his evidence in chief. He has done something that has received applause unusually from both sides of the divide. We've heard the NPP indeed say that he's been pretty honest and that he's ready, as far as you're concerned, your estimation, to damn the consequences and save his reputation. In other words, he doesn't care what happens. I just want to tell the court the truth. So that is interesting. Then also we've heard from some members of the NDC legal team who also have their own view on this matter. We'll interrogate that shortly. Some also are now saying that Dr. Afari-Gyan's testimony will carry a certain different weight compared to all the ones we've heard so far, i.e. Dr. Bawumia and Asiedu Nketia, because some even are now calling him an expert witness, although, of course, he's a party to this whole particular case. We'll examine that particular dynamics as well. How much value, how much weight can you place on what he told us yesterday, the whole world, indeed the Supreme Court? Would that differ from what we've heard from Asiedu Nketia and, say, Dr. Bawumia? Then we'll also look at the testimony given to this week by Jones Asiedu Nketia and its implications. And when we have time, we'll look at a pretty controversial subject also, something that, again, borders on legality. Is it time probably that we consider regulating social media on the back of the Maniwade saga? Some say social media is growing very fast. It's come to stay. Maybe we should amend our laws, formulate new ones that will target that, probably go the way of China. We will look at that also when we are done looking at the Supreme Court. My name is Evans Mensah. With me to look at that in the studio for now is the spokesperson for the NDC legal team. His name is Nana Todatsi. He was a former chief of staff, so you can... I'm sure you know that he's a pretty heavyweight in the studio. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Join Caucus. We're expecting to join us shortly. Ayikwe Otu is a former Attorney General as well, the heavyweight. He's also a leading member, indeed, the chairman of the MPP's Constitutional and Legal Committee. So when he joins us, we'll have the umbrella and obviously the Osono behind me doing battle. But we'll start first with Nana Todatsi. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome. Yesterday, the EC chairman finally was in the witness box. We didn't anticipate that. Did it catch you by surprise yourself?
Sure. Thanks very much. Dr. Afari-Gyan obviously kept his cards pretty close to his chest and sprung one of those exciting surprises on people who probably have said so much ill about him over the period, you know. Some said that he would never have the strength to mount the witness box, you know, because he'd be shredded. And I knew that he was the right person. And he was, in fact, he's the only person who should go into the box, you know, and answer or respond to the issues at stake. You understand, when the NDC, for instance, third respondents sought to join, the petitioners made it quite clear that they don't have any business with the, the third respondents. That's the NDC. What have they done? What's their interest in this matter? We have a case against the Electoral Commissioner. You understand? You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember consistently they said they have no quarrel, no matter against the first respondent. Yeah. The president. Well, Except, as Dr. Baumia said, he is merely a beneficiary of the second respondents' malfeasance. You remember the former president, President Kufuor?
Yeah.
He said he has no problem with anybody else, but he has a problem with the electoral commissioner. It's been very clear. The target has been there. The person who is believed to have committed the heinous crime. I've read on social media, some say that he should be tried for treason and all that. Who should respond to these issues? Who can respond to these issues? Some of the charges almost border on criminality. In our law, under our jurisprudence, we have what you term individual responsibility. Nobody can drink the bitter pill for him. So really, I mean, he was a person to mount the what do you call it, the chair, and I think that he was really proud. He made his family and himself proud to say that I will respond to the issues.
You raise an important point. That begs the question. Then why did the EC initially, from the onset, then allow somebody else to indeed swear the affidavit?
No, I think that's a purely administrative.
Was it a tactical thing?
No. Yes, exactly. I mean,
a strategic thing.
Let's turn it the other way around. I mean, the EC is a constitutional body. EC is a creation of statute, as lawyers will say. It doesn't have a head. It's an inanimate structure, but it works through people. The head of the Electoral Commission is the Electoral Commissioner. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah. So the Electoral Commissioner is the only person who can represent the Electoral Commission. However, when it comes to preparing affidavits and whatnot, you can always, ask somebody to swear to an affidavit on behalf of the commission. But that's not the same as come to speak on behalf of the commission. The proper spokesperson for the Electoral Commission or a company is a managing director, the chief executive. And that is exactly what I believe he did.
But you understand the objection then that was raised by the petitioners, because the name of the game from the start was everybody put your cards on the table, tell us who you're going to bring. In the course of the trial, if you want to bring somebody else, apply, and the court to consider.
They clearly were wrong. I mean, this is one of the few situations where you can get me to boldly step out. The ruling of, I believe, the 12th April, when we came into the memorandum of issues, application for direction, as we said, when the parties sought to settle matters, what was agreed was that all parties in the case shall be entitled to give oral evidence. Blanket. 2, any witness for any party who wishes to give evidence must put his evidence in the form of an affidavit. Do you understand? So the parties, as it were, themselves were exempted from having to put their whatever they're going to say on paper. They're entitled to come and speak. So really, when he stepped out there, he was representing the Electoral Commission in its fullest entirety, in legal personality. You see, so he was not under any obligation to have his evidence prior recorded or in affidavit. And I was surprised that the Supreme Court didn't spend time to dismiss that application. It was the only surprise for me was that it was actually raised, because really, I mean, who else can speak for the Electoral Commission? Who else but the Electoral Commissioner?
Does that beg a question that someone has asked, that maybe the petitioners were scared that the man himself, who knows everything with his experience, is going to come in the dock, is going to indeed go into witness box and demolish some of the evidence? Some have suggested that, but is that true? We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be joined by former Attorney General Ayiko too, a leading member of the NPP legal team indeed, who'll join us shortly. Thank you very much for staying with us during that break. During that break, we've been joined by former Attorney General Aiko Otu, who's just now joined Nana Todadzi here in the studio. I'll start with that controversial question I asked before we went for that break. It's triggered by a point raised by Nana Todadzi, that he was surprised, actually, that the petitioners indeed raised that objection in the first place. And some have suggested, Ms. Otu, that it's because he was scared that Afarijan, knowing who he is and the experience that he comes into the witness box with, he would have destroyed your case.
Well, I disagree totally with that position. You know, I agree in part with him that the Electoral Commission is a party to the petition, and therefore they are also entitled to make their point. But I think that the point they are missing is this. The person who swore the affidavit is the person who can best testify to that. So the point being raised is that the thing was sworn by Amadou Sule or Sule Amadou, whichever way you put it. And one would have thought that he would mount the witness box, because it was Baumia who swore the affidavit on behalf of the petitioners. Now Farijan chose not to swear. You do recall that at the start of the program or the hearing, Farijan was conspicuously missing, and the judges were asking, is he not the returning officer? Where is he? You know, for presidential elections, he's the returning officer. And one would have thought that he could have been there. I mean, he had a very, hot exchange with somebody on one of the sister, studios, saying that it wasn't time for him, if you like, to appear. But if he knew all along that he was the one who would come and represent the commission, properly so-called, because he happens to be the returning officer when it comes to presidential elections, he should have sworn the affidavit. So that was the point being taken. It's not because anybody is afraid of Farijan. He's been taken on severally. We've taken him to court. I took him to court more than 4 or 5 times on the creation of
and you're indeed still in court now.
Oh, yes, the demarcation of news. So I don't think that anybody is afraid of it.
The question I asked earlier, but triggered again by the point you just raised, possibly it was a strategic move all along to put a certain name there as having sworn the affidavit. Everybody's expecting Amadou Sule to come and then spring a surprise.
But these are the things we talk about, these days of discoveries. When we talk of discoveries, you see, we want the system to look transparent, So you tell me what you want to talk about. Let me prepare and meet you. What they are doing amounts to what we always describe as ambush litigation. You go and strategically keep somebody out of the dial, create the impression that he's not the one who is coming. Then all of a sudden you bring him. The objection was properly taken that this man cannot speak to the affidavits because he did not swear. Now he would confirm this, that when you are swearing affidavit, you say that the facts to which I depose are within my peculiar knowledge. And if they have come to you from other sources, you say so. That these facts have come to me by virtue of the fact that I am chairman of the, the Electoral Commission and all that. So he did not swear. Why is he being put into the box? Of course, the problem, I have always said that if you are not able to predict the outcome of any objection or any decision of a court, it makes those of us who give advice very, feel very bad. You see, the whole idea of precedence is to be able to, predict that, look, having regard to A, B, C, D, this is what judges will say. Because in the first place, all judges are lawyers. Except when you go to magistrates where you've got laymen who are trained as magistrates. Otherwise, all judges are lawyers. We all read the same books. We do the same research. So based upon precedent, this is how the thing goes. So you expect that the ruling will go this way. And before you say, Jack, the ruling is going the other way. It puts us in a very bad light where you have given your clients the assurance that based on what you know and the state of the law, this is how these things will go. I'll give you one short example. In Mandemu's applications, we say that you have to make a demand.
The Mandemu's, I'll try and explain, is when you want to force an institution to do something that they are supposed to do.
Office, to do something is public duty, perform is public duty. it is said that you have to make a request, a demand first. It is only when the demand is refused that you move on. And I had a case in which there was no request made, but something had happened. So I went to the Supreme Court, based on what I know and the state of the law. Then the Supreme Court said, Article 23 is now talking about administrative justice and imposing a duty on all administrative bodies and officials to be fair to everybody. So we think that once that article is there, there's no need to make any demands anymore, And then at the end of the day, we lost the case. Based upon what I knew, clearly what happened was wrong. And now you go to court and say, Article 23 had imposed duty on all public officials. So be it. If once they've done it, it's okay. So this is, so these are some of the difficulties. That it is not because the petitioners are afraid of anybody, but they are saying that based upon the law as we know it, the person who has sworn the affidavit is the person who should speak to the affidavit. So why is it that a different person is being brought on? That is all there is to it.
Nato Dazi, let me bring you in on some of the things you talked about, because you got opportunity after the objection. Key amongst which is the suggestion that, and it was very plain about it, that in elections you have what he calls transpositional errors, where my vote can be given to you, your vote can be given to me, and that some of these, to use his word, has indeed happened. Then he goes on to say that if you look at the transpositional errors, they at some point have the potential to rob a legitimate victor of his victory. Then again, he contrasts that with a point where he says it would be a miracle if mistakes were not made. Some have made a lot of what he said, and I've heard spokespersons of the NPP actually harp on that to say it confirms their case. What's your own understanding as a lawyer of that particular?
No, Evans, I'll get to it in a moment. Just 1 minute, to rebut what my very good friend, good friend on the other side, said. By way of a joke, there was a time I met some friends. He said, "Don't refer to them as good friends at all. They're not friends, But they are friends,
Absolutely.
Even though we disagree.
Absolutely.
On so many critical points. But you see, in court, if you give somebody a power of attorney, go speak for me, go sue for me, and you turn up in court, you are not excluded from speaking. You understand? You can take over. It's my case. I gave you the authority to do that, so I can go. It's normal. And I'll just mention this to indicate that once Afrejan is in court, he is entitled to speak as a party. No, but Sule would have sworn to that affidavit on behalf of the commission. And he said the head of the commission is Afrejan. So that's why. But if you are just sure, the point about it, really, this now is behind us because the Supreme Court has ruled.
So to the issue
that quickly to the transpositional error. You talk about the transpositional errors. The transpositional errors was not raised first by Afrejan. Indeed, in the cross-examination of Dr. Bawumia, Mr. Chachuchikata was the one who consistently raised the issue of transpositional errors. I thought, to a giggle, when he said, look, all these so-called errors could have arisen from what we term transpositional errors. And people giggled. Then I said, there it goes. Now, transpositional errors are simply, you can find it in the ordinary accounting books, when you are moving a figure from credit to debit to credit, that kind of thing, and then you accidentally, just move 60,000, you write 6,000. These are arithmetical things.
It could also be deliberate.
Yeah, no, of course. You can use it for dangerous purposes. The person who knows that his work will not be audited can deliberately slot it in, and the boss will just look at it and then let it go until the auditors come. What Dr. Farijan said yesterday, and which for me was strangely turned, I would say twisted, turned, was that he kept saying that the two things to watch there at that collation center, the results come from the polling stations, and those results are, they are fought over by the polling agents there and there. You see, then they have a right to order a recount at least 2 times, but the second time the presiding officer has an option to defer it. They can come up to the collation center. He said, when you come to the collation center, the votes are not recounted. There's only a collation. Now, in the process of collating, and he used, I believe, your constituency or so. He said it's the largest constituency with about 80. It was Lejokuku. He used that constituency. There, you are transposing, you are across, putting it the other way. You are moving figures from one place to the other under the pressure of election. You can make mistakes. He said it would have been a miracle if no mistakes were made in 26,002, polling stations across the country. Is that what made that mistakes were made? Mistakes were obviously. And the NDC kept saying that there would have been mistakes. Then they said that there were transpositional errors. They call it clerical errors. You remember? That's what they said. These are clerical errors or what transpositional errors. And these are normal things. Even in court, the judge giving his ruling, then he finds out that instead of writing 40,000, he's written 4,000. He has a power within himself as a judge to correct it, even after he's read the ruling. That's a very important point you make. So then the Supreme Court can correct I'm asking for a re-round of elections. I'm moving one more, just a little step. The explanation was just to let people understand what we are talking about. That just me being mischievous. Yes. But Dr. Farijan made one more statement, that at the collation center, at times, the recollation will be done about 25 times. You heard him? Yeah. He said it goes on and on and on. They don't object. Even though at the polling station they can do it only 1 or 2 times, at the collation center, you go on and on and on until the transpositional error is discovered and is corrected. And then all the parties are, satisfied. Then what do? Their agents, or even the candidates who are even the parliamentary, will stand and then sign the document. Then all of them, when they are satisfied, all the parties carry the result to the regional office of the Electoral Commission, where it's moved on to the national. So the point about it is that transpositional error, or the so-called error that is said to occur, terminates at the collation center. That is the point that he strongly made. Now, for some people, it's, Farijan says that he admits to transpositional errors, and that he said something rather in law. We say, I don't know how he got it, but he said, when you are reading a document, you must read it as a whole. Yeah. Indeed, when we are reading what Farijan said, we must read it as a whole. So the point I'm making is that yes, it would have been a miracle. And I can't for my life see how any NDC, and for that matter, any MPP, or for that matter, any Ghanaian, will say that we've had an election in this country, there were no mistakes. But there's a mechanism for correcting the mistake within the system. One, at the polling station, through a request for a recount 2 times. Or when you get to the collation center, it is done as many times until the transpositional error or the whatever mistake is removed. Or when it gets to the national, the strong room, where 4 big men or officers of the various parties, most times they are former national chairmen. Back Menu, my good friend, was sitting down there. He said they take the results which have come from down there and then call back to check. Is it correct? They say it's correct. Go ahead. And they sign before they forward it to Dr. Farijan in his room. Hope he won't be smoking in his room. It's quite time, that's his pastime. Yeah. And then, he endorses what the party bosses have signed. He says he's the last person to see it. So I want to make it quite clear that after the transposition errors, they do okay.
Okay, I want to bring in Mr. Otu now. You heard him. I don't know what your view is on what you heard, but Rajan also added something very instructive. There have been times when these transpositional errors have deprived legitimate winners of elections of their victory.
It's true. And I'm surprised at some of the points made by my friend that it never robs anybody of a victory because there's an internal mechanism by which these things could be corrected. It's not true. I mean, there's one from Cape Coast, Anus, where the special voting was not added to the votes before it was declared. The gentleman drew the attention of the officers at the coalition center that, look, you are rushing, going to announce these results. You have not added a special voting, and we have done it. If you add it, I become the winner. They ignored him and brought the thing to Accra, to reaching. He followed it up to reach it, told them, don't do it. What you are saying is wrong. They ignored him, went on to Afarijan. Afarijan accepted it, gazetted the results. He gazetted that result, and the gentleman was sworn into parliament. Then he had to go to court. 4 years. By the time the decision was given, I think we had only 4 more months. So he never took his seat. You know. So these could really rob people of their votes. You see, I have said on other networks that the problem that Afraija is having for the first time ever is that people are looking at the pink sheets, which used to be the blue sheets. It's never come up before. You know, in the past, what you do is that from the polling station, you get your results. You send them to the coalition center. Assuming you have 160 polling stations, you put all the results together and then you collate the results. That's the idea. And then whoever, if it's parliamentary, first past the post, you declare the man as the winner. From there, it goes to region, from region to Afarijan's strong room, and then he announces it. Nobody has gone back to look at the pink sheet to see what happens on the pink sheet, because it is the pink sheet which is the primary source of the information which eventually gets to the coalition center.
But that in itself is in dispute now.
That is why I'm saying...
Because Asiedu Nketia had said, as far as it's concerned, the pink sheet is not the primary document.
That is his view of the matter. But we are saying that is the primary document. And it is the position. I don't know how he would put it other way if he says he has 34 years of elections in Ghana. I don't know how else he could have put it. Because these pink sheets have the results on them from the various polling stations. It is these things that are carried to the coalition center. So you see there will be various jubilations. In this particular polling station, NDC has won, and they are jubilating. And the other polling station, it is MPP, and they are also jubilating. At the end of the day, it is only when you put all the results together at the coalition center that you can say that, oh, indeed, it is NDC who won, or it is MPP who won.
Would it be right to suggest that the Supreme Court will have to make a determination of which document is the primary document?
In fact, that is what they have said when we are talking about pink sheets. And that's why they are even talking about getting the original as scanned, as against the CD-ROM. That is what they want to look at. So, because the problems we are talking about are on the face of the pink sheet. They've got nothing to do with coalition. If on the face of the pink sheet, and some of the strange things that Farijan was talking about, I was a candidate. You have the machines. We all voted. I believe you voted. Yeah. It is only when you put your fingers on the machine that your picture will pop up, isn't it? Yeah. So this facial only, if you are holding a card, where do you put it for a facial only to pop up?
You said those ones are legally allowed to vote.
Where? He said it will pop up. From where?
So
you use only an ID card, and the ID card cannot be put into the machine. So what is this strange proposition?
So you check manually against the
And I'm saying, why is he saying that it will pop up and say, your picture will pop up and say facial only? Where? Where is it written? I mean, this strange proposition of the biometric verification system that he gave yesterday, I just could not understand what he was talking about. He said, it will pop up. Your picture will pop up and it will say face only from the way. It's only your ID card that they can use to check. That is their use to check. And I don't know what else, what other biometric, because what is biometric? Biometric is something which has to do with your data, something from your body. It's something from your body. That's biometric. So unless you can tell us, and I do recall very clearly Codeo saying that the only thing he did that they didn't like was that although he promised those with those defects, what you call permanent trauma, that was going to find a way for them to vote, he never did it. He never. What is it that he's talking about? The Codeo report is there. And I think he should be reminded to go and look at it.
I want to bring in your colleague now, because I'm sure he has something to say about that.
They are in bed. They are in bed. So they said this together.
That's a strong allegation.
Oh, no, they are in bed. They are all respondents from the same.
Well, I think my friend has made some really amazing, what do you call it, statements this evening, you know. I can understand it. First of all, it's not easy to handle defeat. Anyone. I've been caught up. No, I've been caught up. I remember in 2000, after the election, the defeat. I mean, we've been in power for how many years? 19 years. Suddenly...
That was when you were the chief of staff.
Yes. Suddenly they said, we've lost. What does that mean? You know, it can daze you for a period. I remember President Kufuor saying that the day after the defeat, you know, he got up and I said, get ready, we're going to, what do you call it?
The castle.
We're going to the castle. No, sorry. You're no more in the castle, you know. So managing defeat is something that in some places you need some very serious medical, you know, experts to assist you. Psychiatric thing too. It's not easy. But what did Dr. Farijan say different from what happened in the election? Nothing. In fact, I was surprised that Mr. Addison got up and said that he was giving a lecture, a seminar. It was just what happened is what he said. You know, he told the court. And what happened was just what Mr. Sedun Katia told the court. You were saying, Dr. Farijan is continuing his evidence, so we don't want to go so far. But you see, in an election system, in a national project like this, you must believe somebody. You must trust people. There are agents, there are assistants, there are supporters, there are people who work up to you. You understand? So if we don't believe in our own system, and that is critical, then we cannot be talking about developing our country. We develop our system when we develop structures, we develop, agencies and whatnot, whom we believe will do the right thing and whatnot. Now, if we have agents, polling agents at the polling station, and they sign against the result, and you say that you don't believe them, honestly, who else will you believe? You know, as Dr. Muhammadu Baumia would say, you and I were not there. He consistently said that. But the person was there. The polling agent, he was there. And he said the result is correct. He has signed. You say you dispute it. You and I were not there. No, just a minute, just a moment. But this whole idea of a biometric verification, who says that if you are holding an identity card, and you go to the bank, you know, to what they call it, the
ATM.
The ATM. You necessarily must have a finger alone between that. Science has progressed in such a way that they can take your picture. Facial observation. You know, in the bank there are some offices in the US and whatnot. You step out there, you don't have to put anything in. You don't have to put your finger there. Facial observation. Once you come out there, the machine will recognize you.
That is not biometric. That is not biometric.
Well, you call it whatever. He said the machine recognizes the face, and then the face will pop up there.
That's what I'm saying.
You are holding a card.
Strange.
He said you are holding. No. He said you are holding a card, and he said it that the slot. I don't know whether you heard. You just the slot is on the machine, and the face pops up.
You were there.
Yes, I was there. You and I were not there at the podium.
I want to bring you in now. I mean, we just want to wrap up. But add a question to it. Some are suggesting that because of his experience, his testimony might not carry the same weight as Bawumia or, say, Asiru Nketia because of his experience. He's the man in charge. He's done it for 20 years, etc. Is there any value in that kind of argument?
Oh, no, not at all, not at all. You see, these commentaries that you see people make outside.
Some even say he's an expert witness. You can call him that.
They are not to have any effect on the judges. The judges only look at the evidence before them and come to a conclusion. So it could be an expert is even the least. An expert's testimony in law is nothing more than an opinion, and it is for the judge to come to his own conclusion. Even handwriting experts, whatever you come and say, a doctor can come and give his evidence as to his opinion as to the cause of death, and the lawyer can disagree with him and tell him that others could have led to that kind of thing. So if he has given evidence, fine, but it is the value of the evidence that will be looked at in terms of the law.
Is the value the same?
It is in terms of the law. You see, this banding around of people having signed the rest. He's a lawyer, my friend on my left is a lawyer. He's aware that even where a contract has been signed, it can still be set aside. He knows. The fact that the contract has been signed does not mean they are what we call vitiating factors of a contract. And if you find those things, you can set aside the contract. And therefore, if they are vitiating factors, I mean, I'd like to talk about this so-called
Bio?
No, the people, the agents. You see, I was involved twice, 2008, 2012. Agents have no role to play. They are glorified observers. You go and there's a presiding officer in charge. There's an armed policeman or armed military man standing there. There are other officers of the EC manning the station. And they decide where you, the agent, will even sit. You have no business getting anywhere to see whether the ID card which the man has brought refers to him. You have no business doing that. Any attempt at disturbing what they would term as disturbance of the voting, you will be walked out of the place. So what are they talking about today? The only time that he comes in is when the results have been put on the pink sheet and then he's asked to come and sign. There is no place for any serious objection as he's talking about. There are two counting. One, you can count at the polling station, and the other counting can take place at the collation center. That is counting of the ballots, and it is in his opinion to decide whether it will allow you to even count or not to count. If he says, I know, the difference is so great that even if I count, there wouldn't be any difference. Or that it is so close, so let's count again. Maybe some of your votes or ballots have been credited to the other guy. Then perhaps we'll do that. So I insist, and I go along with Bawumia, that those people are glorified observers. They have nothing except at the end of the day when they are called upon to come and sign. Look at the space there. Give a reason.
My producer is indicating we have to wrap up. But briefly, very briefly.
I just one. The agents are constitutional officers. The constitution.
It is the role given to them.
No,
they are
constitutional officers.
We
they
all
are
know.
In the law. They
are
have
they given the rights?
Secondly,
are they given the rights?
It would be totally wrong for anyone to see Dr. Farijan as an expert witness. The man is there as a party. He is the principal party against whom allegations, both criminal and otherwise, have been made.
But is the value of his testimony the same as say?
No, there's no way. I mean, you saw. I don't want to do the work of the Supreme Court, please. But we had the evidence of somebody who has his hands right on the job and somebody who did a desktop analysis.
So, Clay, the value for you is not the same.
Well, I'm saying he said that he doesn't know where Dr. Buamia got some of his figures from.
3,000 when it comes to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So they are not the same.
Thank you very much. That's an answer to that.
The Supreme Court will decide.
The Supreme Court will decide.
Spokesperson for the NDC legal team. Also, you had the former Attorney General Ayiko. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. This has been Joint Caucus. My name is Evans Mensah.